Hello, everyone. Welcome back once again to a Greater Lawrence Chamber of Commerce Chamber Chat. My name is Brad Kloffenstein, President of the Greater Lawrence Chamber. Today, we have a fantastic guest who's going to be talking about all sorts of great stuff that's going to be happening right here in the heart of Lawrence. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest today, Judy Byron of the Arts for Lawrence. Judy, welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice to be here.
So thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Let's just get going. You got a lot of money and get to spend it on lots of cool stuff.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about what all you have going on.
I will. So to back up, at the end of 2018, in December of 2018, the City of Lawrence and Arts for Lawrence were awarded $5.85 million to build the Fort Bend Cultural Campus. And we are a year and a half into that project, and it's moving right along. Can I share my screen?
Maybe.
Let me see.
When I say maybe, I don't know. We've never had anybody share a screen.
Oh, it says host disabled it, so I won't share my screen.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay. So the project, the Fort Bend Cultural Campus, has 5 phases. The first phase is finished, and that's the renovation to the theater. The renovation to the theater was a lot of cosmetic updates that it desperately needed. But I see Brian Norris is on this chat. It also includes upgrading to add movie capabilities. So we will be able to offer films at the fort, which we had hoped to launch a while ago, free to the community. But as you all know, with COVID, our doors are still closed. And it also included a project that we did about a year ago with DACA recipients who worked with some glass artists and created a big fused glass American flag that is being installed in the front lobby right now. Phase 2 is underway now. It is an addition to the theater on the back end of the theater, which offers kind of a storefront entrance from the plaza, public restrooms, and then access to classroom, rehearsal, and conference rooms. Phase 3 is also in progress, and that is moving a historic fort building, World War II era building, from Lot Loop East over to the campus. That building should be on a truck and moving either Monday or Tuesday of next week. And that building will be repurposed as our visual arts center. So it will offer a gallery and classrooms in the basement for ceramics, pottery wheels, and stained glass classes, and a classroom on the second floor for less messy kinds of art classes. That all art classes are messy, but not quite as messy as pottery sometimes. That building will also be home to a resident artist. Our first resident artist is Gary Schmidt. Gary's been with us for, probably 8 years now. Gary will oversee the gallery and the open hours for the gallery. But that will be a competitive process, and every 2 years we will change that resident artist. They get a free studio, a little stipend, and they oversee the gallery for us.
Very cool.
Yeah. Phase 4 is the plaza itself, and that's also underway, as is Phase 5, which is all the interesting artwork that's going in. And before I come up for breath, some of the artwork that's most interesting to people are if you were able to enjoy the temporary art installation, The Musical Swings. We will have a permanent version of that. We will be the first people ever to have the permanent version of The Musical Swings. We will also have another sound sculpture that will be, how do I describe this? There will be bronze footprints in the path, and as you march along the pathway, following those bronze army boot prints, you will hear the cadence of Army soldiers marching, and there will also be a few little Easter eggs. So at certain times of day, you might hear some trumpet music. There's also an interactive piece by Breakfast, which is a company out of Brooklyn, New York, that will hang in the new lobby of the theater edition. This piece of artwork is, it's a flip disc piece of artwork. So in other words, it's made of tiny little discs that flip back and forth. One side is green, the other side is gold. And when you get in front of it, it will act as a mirror, and you will see yourself in sort of a silhouette pattern of black and gold. When no one is in front of it, though, it is through Wi-Fi connected to Indiana Power and Light, and it is showing all of the green energy being produced in Indianapolis. And so over the years, it will change, the pattern will change as we create more green energy. We have other pieces of artwork that are being commissioned for the cultural campus, and I think the last really big hurrah is a augmented reality app. And that is something that you can download on your phone, or you can come into the theater and borrow a tablet, and it will give you a little bit of history about the campus. It'll tell you information about the artwork that's on the campus, but it'll also have some interactive visual things, just fun stuff that happens when you look through the app. So there you have it.
Very nice. So first, well, my first question after that, there's a whole lot of questions. This segment might go longer than the 30 minutes we've had planned. Tell us, who are all tuned in here, a little bit about yourself. How did you end up in Lawrence? How did you end up at Arts for Lawrence?
Sure. So I actually grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've lived in a number of different states, but I moved here in the early 90s with an ex-husband who moved here for a job. I was a single mom, raised my kids, and worked as an artist. I have a degree in architecture, but I opted to do hand-done drawings for architects and for builders and realtors. And so I've always been in the arts through sort of the building industry. I got remarried in 2004 and moved to the Fort, and had lost my business to the recession in 2007, and started volunteering for an organization called Partnerships for Lawrence, which is Arts for Lawrence's legal name. That organization was very, very young. It was less than a year old. It didn't have a very strong direction, and I kind of grabbed hold of it and said, let's focus on the arts. And so we did. And we did that through partnerships, which enabled us to grow really quickly. Building win-win partnerships is a great way to share resources and grow an organization. And we did that without any brick and mortar. We opened an art center on Franklin Road in 2011. And then in 2015, moved to the Fort at the theater, which was a goal that we had set early on. And then just had this vision of a cultural destination here at Fort Benjamin Harrison. And when the Lilly Endowment announced their competitive grant process for strengthening Indianapolis through arts and cultural innovation, I felt like we had a story to tell. And they liked our story. So thank you, Lilly Endowment, for funding this great project.
So the theater building, you said you moved in there in 2015. What was that being used for prior to that?
So the building has always been a theater. It was built as a theater in 1929 to entertain the enlisted men. It had acted as a band concert theater. It had acted as a movie theater. It had stage performances. And in 1985, sorry, they're cutting the grass here of all things. I hope you can hear me over the lawnmower. In 1985, it closed to the public. In that time, and Brian, chime in if you know any more than I do. In that time, it was used as a practice facility for the National Guard band, but was not open to the public until we moved in 2015. So there's actually a fire, I believe, in '85 that damaged a lot of the interior. And so they had all brand new seats put in the theater. And then, of course, it closed in 1985. So the seats that we have in the theater are over 30 years old, but they are in really good condition because the only people sitting in them have been the people that have been to our shows in the last 4 years. And it's 5 years, I guess, except that we've been closed now for a year for construction and COVID.
So obviously, me and my partner Sheila, we moved to the fort back in September and fell in love, and then kind of like you, I found a job opening right where I'd love to live, and we just became season ticket holders for 2020 in the wintertime. So what's going to happen with the 2020 season? I think there were supposed to be 5 productions, and I assume that that's just been trashed.
So, so the 2020 season, we rearranged that season so many times, but we have now canceled the 2020 season and are now talking to our partners about holding that same season in 2021. So like I said, we build partnerships. Of those 5 productions, one of them is actually produced by Arts for Lawrence, and that is a production that we hired a screenwriter to write a comedy about the Benjamin Harrison family that offers cameo spots, and it's a show that we hope to offer on an annual basis with, different people in the cameo spots, and it should be really fun. The other 4 shows are with partners that produce shows all over town. One of them is Dance Kaleidoscope, who offers very unique modern dance performances. They perform downtown if you've ever seen them. Another partner is Q Artistry. Ben Asekwe writes his own musical dramas. He's very popular downtown as well. Fat Turtle is a newer theater company that produces original works, so they're all locally written plays as well, more of the living room drama. And then Deborah Asante of Asante Children's Theater puts on an adult performance, which is usually an all African-American cast, and usually the subject is some kind of social topic. So we hope that in 2021 we'll be announcing that season all over again. Keep your fingers crossed that we can get this pandemic under control and open the theater back up. We're working on our reopening plan now, but it's kind of hard with a 200-seat theater. Social distancing means taking it down to maybe 50-seat theater, which is tough.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So now Sheila is a big fan of Hamilton, and she was looking forward to the compare and contrast with Harrison.
Well, Harrison is not a musical, and it is a comedy, so they would be quite a bit different, but fun nonetheless.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about just capacities. So you mentioned your theater seats, 200 right now, although that might end up being 50 depending on how that goes in the future. What about the amphitheater that's going to be there? How big of events are you going to be able to hold, and what are you looking at putting out there in that amphitheater?
Sure. So we offer a program called Fridays at the Fort. I don't know if anyone has attended those, but they're free outdoor concerts. And we will move those to the amphitheater. One of the nice things about that is when we host Fridays at the Fort, it takes all the staff members and their vehicles to load up a bunch of tents and, beer coolers and all that stuff and get it over to Civic Plaza, which is, just down the street. I mean, we could walk if we had to. But having it in our backyard will make things a lot easier. The amphitheater events can host about 500 people. And there's lots of seating and interesting places to be during those outdoor concerts. We also offer a number of annual festivals, and so those festivals will also be held on the plaza using the amphitheater for music and entertainment, and the grounds for different interactive things. So we expect that Fridays at the Fort will grow, and instead of being 5 or 6 concerts over the summer, perhaps it would be a weekly event. So if you know of any big sponsors that want to help us make it be a weekly event, we are looking for sponsors always.
Well, I'm a guy that knows people that like to sponsor things, so we'll see.
Good.
I need to get a couple sponsors, one for this show. So if anybody out there wants to sponsor Chamber Chat, we're looking for you. If we have 2 people who want to sponsor Chamber Chat, let's talk to Judy. We can make this happen. So now what about Loggers for Lawrence?
Loggers for Lawrence is actually a Parks Department event. I would guess that the city might move it over to the cultural campus. I haven't really talked to them about that yet, but we do have a strong partnership with the city. This is all owned by the city. Arts for Lawrence just provides the programming. And so we're hoping that the Parks Department, I sit on their master plan committee, and we're hoping that they're going to add some new programming to some of their facilities. And so, let's hope that the Parks Department is adding to the fun that's happening out there on the cultural campus.
So I hope so. We have several people who are joining us right now. Anybody who's in the audience have any questions for Judy? Just about art and what's going on in Lawrence? I will take anyone. Jeff Daler.
Hey, Judy, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. Hey, when you were looking at the amphitheater for design purposes, did you tour some other amphitheaters around Indiana to say, hey, here's what looks good and here are things that we would like to incorporate, and what are some of those? Are there features, food, what vendors, whatever?
Sure. So the amphitheater, because we're pretty tight venue, and we wear a lot of hats, so our spaces need to be pretty multifunctional. We really looked at this being more of a kind of a band show where people can come and bring their own equipment. One of the amphitheaters that was looked at was one in Noblesville. We also, there's a team of designers working on here. One of them is on the call today. Brian, raise your hand. Brian is a museum designer, so he has had a lot to say in the technical aspects of some of the things on the campus, as well as the landscape designer is Context Design, and they have been doing a lot of designs of downtowns and places similar to this. So yes, we've looked around a lot. My forte really is in the artwork, so I've reached out to artists from all over the world, really, and I've let the other designers look at the pieces and parts that they're most talented at. Does that answer your question?
Pretty good. Though it seems like if the expert is here, I suppose I could ask Brian too. I don't know if we want to let him get in on the conversation.
Sure.
Anything you could add, Brian, to design-wise, function-wise? What are the things that that I could expect when I walked in?
Well, I think Judy pretty much summed it up. I mean, it's everything is always driven by the budget. So band shell is a perfect example of we want it to be simple. That doesn't mean that down the road it doesn't get a lot larger. But there's a lot of competition in Central Indiana for outdoor amphitheaters. Nickel Plate, up in Noblesville. So it's really, if you've ever been to Fridays at the Fort, we would bring in a trailer, and the city actually has purchased a new one, but we were trying to go with something nicer and more permanent. And maybe a lot of times there isn't a need for sound reinforcement. It might be an intimate setting, so we're just kind of approaching it as simple as best. And I know you talked about some food choices. Judy, did you want to kind of chime in on there's going to be places for food trucks and other
so there's a if you're familiar with the location, which is just north of the theater, there was an access road that's not really a road, but just south of the cemetery. And that will be kind of a parking with a turnaround at the end. And that's a great place where we can host food trucks. That's where we expect food trucks to be. There's also a lot of areas where vendors can set up tents for other kinds of offerings. And we really had hoped that the Parks Department would put a cafe in the Starrett Center. And we've designed an outdoor cafe just outside their commercial kitchen. And I think we're still twisting their arm. And I think that that might be a good revenue source for the Parks Department as a rental. I'm not expecting them to become cooks, but if they rented that to a restaurant, it would be a great asset to have a permanent food source on the campus.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Clyde, did I see that you had a question?
I did, Brad. Thank you. I want to thank you, Brad, for hosting us, and thank Judy for all her work on behalf of the arts here in our city. Judy, I had a question. Had there been any discussions about perhaps begin an implementation of a sculpture garden anywhere in the city? I know we have lots of park space devoted to athletics, and I'm happy to see your work be put into place. But I think the arts are a powerful experience for folks who are seeking spiritual connectivity and solitude, and I think a sculpture garden in our city is something that would benefit the citizenry immensely.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if that might be something you were thinking about also.
Yeah, so when we proposed our vision of a cultural campus to the Lilly Endowment, we did propose a sculpture garden along property that is just north of where we're building the cultural campus. It was phase 6 of 7 phases that we proposed, and we got funding for phases 1 through 5.
Wow.
So that did not get funded. However, we have worked to bring other sculpture to Lawrence, and of course the cultural campus will have a few sculptures of its own. But we've worked through the Redevelopment Commission and also through the Fort Harrison Reuse Authority to bring sculptures to Lawrence through Heron School of Art and Design. There are 2 on the fort still. They were brought to the fort in 2010, I want to say. And there was another one at 56 and Pendleton Pike that was, if anyone remembers, it was 4 4-letter words that were kind of intermeshed. And when you drove through the intersection, you could see one word, and then when you got to a certain angle, you could see the other word. And that one is still in storage at the City of Lawrence. It had been hit by a car and taken down. It could easily go back up. I kind of fought that battle for a little while and put it on the back burner. There's also another sculpture that the City of Lawrence owns that is still down at Heron School of Art and Design because the administration at the time couldn't agree on a place to install it. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think artwork is a wonderful thing for communities. I think it evokes conversation, it brings people together, spirituality, all of that. And so we're always advocating for more sculptures in town.
Thank you. Yeah, we live right in that, in the area of the previous outdoor sculpture. I have a thing about billboard sculpture and street sculpture. It should be set away so it's not a distraction. And from my perspective, and I think that it was a wonderful sculpture. It just needed to be in a different location. That's my thought. But respectfully, appreciate all your work.
Ross Snyder.
Thanks, Brad. I had to step away for a bit, so I apologize if I missed this, but Judy or Brian, can you tell me how the project's doing in terms of schedule and budget? We're in the highway construction business, and I know some materials are hard to obtain these days, so I didn't know if you were facing any challenges like that.
Great question. As far as budget goes, we're doing okay. I'm not having a heart attack yet. Some things are over budget. Some things, luckily, are under budget. So we're kind of just okay. Not great, but okay. And as far as the timeline goes, per the Lilly Endowment's contract, we need to be finished with the project by December of 2022. And I expect us to be finished a full year before that, if not more. We have phase 2, 3, 4, and 5 all going at the same time, which actually saves us money and pushes us down that timeline pretty quickly.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Judy, I have another question since I do run the chamber. Could you tell us a little bit about the importance of art for the business community in Lawrence, why it's important, and how they kind of intermingle?
Sure, I'd love to. This is my soapbox for years. The arts are a way to draw people into the city so that they're spending their discretionary dollars. And those dollars are going into the pockets of the people in that city that run gas stations and shops and everything else. Folks who play in a city and really enjoy a theater or the amenities we'll have at the cultural campus tend to want to live in that area. So property values go up. Businesses want their workers to have a great area for after work activities. So they tend to bring their businesses to those areas. The Americans for the Arts do an economic study every 4 years, I believe, and they actually have a calculator on their website that you can plug in to see what kind of an impact you have on your city, especially for arts organizations, because we can take how many shows we have and how many employees we have and plug it into their calculator. And I haven't done it in a long time, but when I was advocating for people to support our application to the Lilly Endowment, I ran that calculator and realized that Arts for Lawrence, and at that time we had 2 employees and a little theater to run, we were bringing $500,000 worth of economic development to the city. And that's not money that's coming into our door, not money being spent on our tickets, but money that our constituents are spending in other people's establishments. So it's definitely an economic driver.
Nice, thank you. Any other questions from our audience before I get to my wild card question?
I just have a comment to add on to that, if I might.
Please.
I think we've also found in crime prevention through environmental design, or CPTED, when you bring in more folks, such as Judy is referring to, you also find a lowering of crime. So that's another part of the bringing those folks together and having them come together for an aesthetic purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Just, yeah, the more eyes and the more people who are there having fun and being respectful, the less likely it is that things go awry. So, all right, Judy, so my wild card question, I want to talk about the water tower.
Oh my gosh, that is a wild card.
It is on private property, but it is certainly a visual asset to the community, and I would potentially consider that at risk.
Yeah.
Would the Arts for Lawrence ever conceivably bring that in under your umbrella, or just in your opinion, what should happen with that water tower to make sure that we don't lose it as an asset?
Okay, so we tried to do that with this grant. So also in that sculpture garden, phase 6 was the property that the water tower sits on and the water tower itself. I've actually looked at the water tower through a number of different venues. I've been to the DNR architect to find out whether or not we could put a mural on it, and we cannot. It is a historic structure and it has to be painted either white or black and white checked or black and gold checked or something. However, what we proposed in our cultural campus project was that we put a sculpture garden in the grounds below it, save it, paint it white, get it structurally sound, and then do projection mapping on it so that from 56th and Post Road and farther even, you could see things happening on that water tower. So it would be a canvas for something that's not permanent art. And unfortunately, that was not funded. I since have been looking for other funding for it. We're talking about $500,000 to $1 million to do something like this. We've talked to the property owner, and we know that they don't want the water tower. So yeah, it's one of those things that comes up. It's a wild card for sure, and it comes up on a regular basis. I'd love to save the water tower. It's so iconic, and it's in a number of people's logos, and I would love to see it saved. But so far, I have not figured that one out yet. Still trying.
Okay, I've actually had conversations with the mayor, and he doesn't want to spend $500,000 to save it, but he agrees that it needs to be saved.
Yeah.
So my last question before I let you go, tell us a little bit about the communications building. I just discovered that building maybe 2 months ago. I thought, wow, this building would make a great Chamber of Commerce headquarters. And then I come to find out that you got it for free.
I did.
So you dashed all my hopes and dreams on that. But just curious a little bit more about where it's going to sit on your campus. And you mentioned that you're going to have artists in there. Any other uses that you might consider for it?
Yeah, so it's going to be our visual arts center. They actually have some beams under it right now. We had hoped that it would be picked up and moved this Friday, but it looks like it's going to be Monday or Tuesday. I'm not exactly sure why it's been delayed, but I don't want to know. So they're literally going to pick it up and move it over it'll face Post Road just north of the Starrett Center. We will change one of the back windows into another door so that it will mainly be entered through the back door from the plaza and leave the front door as it is, which is elevated off the sidewalk. It's not ADA compliant, but the back door will be. So it'll look very historic from Post Road, but the access will be from the plaza. The first floor will be a gallery that will change on a monthly basis. The second floor will have a classroom and the basement will have a classroom. It's not a very big building. It's, I want to say it's about 1,500 square feet. So size of a small house.
Or Chamber of Commerce office.
Yeah. So the building had actually already been moved once. It had been moved just east off of Lawton Loop East's service drive so that the developer could build garages for the condominiums that went into the barracks. And so it had no power or utilities to it. It was sequestered between a private drive and a ravine. And so the reuse authority was growing really tired of trying to find someone to put a use in it. Sorry, Brad. And so they donated it to the project.
So, well, cool. Well, I'm excited because I didn't know that building existed. It's cool. And when I found out that they were talked about demolishing it, that would have been unfortunate. So I'm glad that you saved it and found a use for it. And it's going to be in a much more prominent location. So, Judy Byron, I want to thank you again for joining us. You're doing a great job with the Arts for Lawrence, and you're an asset to the community. I want to thank everyone who joined us this week. Next week, our guest is joining us right here, at least on my computer. He's right down there. Jeff Daler is going to be here, and he's going to be talking to our members about how to market your business during a pandemic and what you can be doing to set yourself up for success as we emerge from this. So Jeff will be here at 1:30 next Wednesday for anybody who wants to join us in person. Also keep in mind, tonight it should be gorgeous. We're doing our Lawrence Cruise In on Otis Avenue, and it sometimes spills over in front of Judy's office there. But we should have lots of cars out for that tonight. So if you have a classic car, bring it. If you just want to see cool cars and come out and have some delicious porter sandwiches, come on out and check it out. Next Thursday, we're still taking reservations for our breakfast connections at, why am I spacing on this? Pam, where are you? I need your help. You're muted.
There we go, at the Reset Center.
There we go, the Reset Center. So get your reservations in for that now. And otherwise be signing up for a golf outing on September 8th. And don't forget, we've got the governor coming in to speak to our membership meeting on October 1st. So thank you all for joining us. And hopefully I'll see you all again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.